Your crimes, Mark. Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Did you beat your wife? Did you kick a pup? Well, find your crimes or make it up. Did you laugh at Hubbard? That's not nice, and now you'll have to pay your price. So will your crimes, Mark? What have you done? Oh, it's too late now. Fair game's begun.
Hello, and this is Mark Bunker here at the headquarters of Xenu TV, broadcasting throughout this sector of the galaxy and covering the important items happening here on planet TGAC. And Kelly, nice to see you. Kelly is, she's a year older than when we last had her in our room here. Birthday girl yesterday, today, back at work, assuming her position, keeping everything rolling along nice and smooth. Thank you for being my mod, Kelly. Wise Mama here. Wise Mama is here, rather. Greetings, she says. Greetings to you as well. Glad you could drop by. You just missed it, but yesterday was Kelly's birthday. Make sure everyone knows. Wise Mama, that was very important. So I wanted to talk tonight about Clearwater and former Mayor Gabe Cazares, who was a hero of mine, and one of the reasons why I moved here to Clearwater. I'm going to let him talk himself and fill us in on a lot of the background about how Scientology came to Clearwater and some of the nefarious things that they did once coming here. Oh, hail no. Is that what this says? I better put my glasses on. Oh, hail no. I like that. Hello to you as well. So also on this video that I'm going to be showing, it's not just Mayor Cazares, but also somebody that I had a few run-ins with, nothing negative, but Wayne Shelor. Wayne Shelor is going to be talking in this video at a time when he was a journalist with one of the newspapers. And after this newspaper job ended, he became the spokesperson for the Clearwater Police Department. And he would have to, do a lot of explaining to the TV stations, especially, why the police were working for Scientology. Well, the Lisa McPherson Trust was in town in 2000, 2001. And listening to him just a few years prior to him working for the police is interesting, because when he was a journalist, he knew full well what Scientology was and how it behaved. And he still knew that when he was working for the police. And this is no slam on him. This is just the job. If you're the, the PR representative for some official department, you have to follow the party line. And at that point, Chief Sid Klein was very opposed to the Lisa McPherson Trust being in town and threatened to arrest us on many times. We've got people coming in here. Look at this. Oh, Rhonda's here. Rhonda Braden, Clearwater is so nice. It's sad that there are no tourists here. Well, there are plenty of tourists. They're usually staying on Clearwater Beach, though. There have not been a lot of things for them to do downtown, although that has changed. I do run into people, because, retired guy driving people around for Uber. I have picked up people who are on the beach visiting, who are going down to to see a concert at the new outdoor amphitheater that we built. And there's there's lots of folks that come in for, the Phillies games, and we just have to lure them downtown. So tourists, having a lack of tourists is not the problem. A lack of anybody downtown is the problem. And the presence of Scientology is the cause of that problem. So Lara, and Lara, because I can say it either way I want. Hey, Mark, she says. Hey, back to you, Lara and Lara. Good golly, Miss M. Mark, great love to you from Indiana. I appreciate that. I need all the great love that I can get from anywhere across all of TGAC. JB 808 is talking to Kelly, but I'm sneaking in here and seeing what he's got up his sleeve here. Hey, Kelly, reading the chat. Oh, very good. I'm glad this was brought up again for all you folks just coming in. Yesterday, Kelly's birthday. I gave her the night off. She had a delicious meal at a wonderful restaurant with friends. And today I said, get back to work. I need my mod there. So no, she was nice enough to always volunteer to help out with these sparkling broadcasts. Wise Mama says Gabe was a good guy trying to do what was right. I remember. Yes, he was. And he never stopped trying to do something about Scientology here in Clearwater. It was a lot of the reasons why I held him such high regard. He never lost sight of the real problem here. And, he faced so many repercussions. We'll talk about some of that stuff later. Kelly wants to know, Mark, how many businesses downtown are non-Scientologists? Well, most of them, I think virtually, well, not all of them, because we do have Paris Morphopolis's one-stop shop. And there are some other Scientologists here and there. But in the 400 and 500 block, which is where most of the restaurants are right now, none of those are Scientologists. They're in Scientologist buildings. So they're, the folks who have the restaurants, own the restaurants, they're under the thumb of Scientology in many respects, because Scientology has been really cracking down on them, only giving month-long leases in many cases. And, in one respect, I heard from one restaurant owner that they shut down in the evening when there's a concert, because that Scientologist who owns the building was saying, there's a lot of people down here. We want a higher cut of your profits. And so they just decided, from what I'm told, to just, close the doors and give everybody who works there a night off. Well, I'm sorry. It's my obligation to welcome Pepperoni Nips. I'm glad you're here. Lupita, I'm waving to you. Good golly, Miss Molly has been missing these lives due to her nursing job. Well, good for you being a nurse. I just signed up for a new healthcare plan today, and I have spent a lot of time at Morton Plant Hospital over the past many years. And I greatly appreciate all the nurses and doctors who took care of me through my triple bypass and other situations that have happened over the years. So, I'm glad that you can join us here, and thrilled that you are out there being a nurse. My brother's wife has been a lifelong nurse as well. And, whenever I have anything going on, I always check with her and say, hey, take a look at these pictures of the moles on my back. What do you think? And then she said, I think you should see a doctor. And then I, don't do it because my insurance was lousy, but better insurance now at a steeper cost. Feral Cheryl's here. Nice to see you, Cheryl. And good golly, Miss M has been watching Xenu TV videos for well over a decade. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I have been producing Xenu TV videos for more than 2 decades, and they live on. And in many cases, they're getting a new life. But it's always exciting when somebody sees them for the very first time. For many people, this is a brand new experience, and it's very exciting. Wise Mama says, you have to see it to believe it. Downtown Clearwater is so strange to see and maddening. Yeah, especially, if you're not used to being down there, and you're a little concerned about being around Scientology, I can understand why some people consider it creepy. But, because I certainly felt that way when I moved to town, and there were empty streets except for, people taking my picture everywhere. But, after being here for a bit and going to the restaurants and just living my life, it became my downtown. Yeah, Scientology's here, but, we're handling them, for God's sakes. So, I mean, there's this natural fear or reluctance of people to come downtown, which is completely silly. Coming downtown is the best way to fight back against Scientology. Good golly, Miss M. There you go. Glad I could help. LNF, Clearwater is probably one of the few places in America where you can find meter parking in front of a city post office. Well, I got to tell you, that's true. But when I was on the council, one of the other council people, Kathleen Beckman, argued that we should have free parking in front of the post office. And so we did. We removed 2 of the meters. So there are 2 spots there where you can park for free. And frankly, that post office isn't that extremely busy anyway. And there's no real parking lot there for them. So it's all street parking. And that parking income is more needed than you'd think. I wish there was another way to do this. Let's see. Okay, fill me in on this. Good golly, Miss M. Hi, Cheryl. I hope Laura Plays is okay. Her channel is now gone. What channel did she have, and what happened to it? I don't have a chance to watch all the, scores of live streams that are up there. I mean, it's really astonishing how many people are out there, getting it done, which is one of the reasons why, I've been starting late at night, figuring, maybe some of those people are asleep and we can just talk privately, just us. There are great restaurants downtown, says Wise Mama. Yep, there are. And I just like going to Downtown Pizza for a couple slices. But the Mexican restaurant right next to it as well, that is a terrific place. And look at this, JB808 gifted 10 Xenu TV memberships. Thank you. I salute you. I really appreciate the support there and the giving chance for folks to make some comments here and picking up one of those. It's a huge help keeping the channel going. You met Lori, I met Lori in Clearwater with Aaron and Cheryl. I tell you, I'm horrible with names. But what happened to her channel? Laura Plays was her channel, and it was taken down. Oh, they've taken down all of her content. We're getting to the bottom of this. Lori, have I been saying Laura? Lori? Kelly, people were attacking her? That's got to stop. She didn't take the site down herself, did she? Or were they peppering YouTube with complaints about material? Well, we'll solve this mystery, and apparently I'm the only one who's in the dark here. But we'll find out before this whole thing is down. Farrell says she got attacked and quit protesting. So did she then decide to remove everything herself? I see. So Kelly, I should have turned to you immediately. She took down her channel and gave it up for now. She's a retired police officer. She took it down herself. Okay. And that's it's nice to see police officers wanting to be a part of the fight to begin with, and it's a shame that a voice is silenced. Why would people attack her? Boy, these things are complicated. There have been flame wars ever since the first dial-up modem was invented, and nowadays it's hard to avoid the passing bullets. And good golly, Miss M says, so sad. Yeah, they were attacking Cheryl too. I see too much of this attacking stuff. Every once in a while, I'll flip on some live stream that I catch, and if it gets dark, it's time to bail. But Lori is an awesome person, says Wise Mama. She provided great content and was an asset we didn't need to lose. Well, let's just send her our best, and try to avoid some of that toxicity. I've been looking at a lot of anonymous stuff in the last week or so. And it reminded me that we had police officers who were behind the anonymous masks. We had doctors and priests and, a lot of young people who just wanted to strike an effective blow. But it was a wide spectrum of people, not the anarchists and terrorists that Scientology always tried to portray Scientology as. And at some point, I'm going to go into the Riverside County battle there over the County Board of Supervisors trying to shut down all protests at Flag. And that was an epic battle. And they started that. Scientology came to the chairman of the board of the supervisors and said, here's a packet on Anonymous. You've got to stop these evil terrorists from protesting. And then this guy just completely bought into helping out Scientology. And of course, the base was in his district, so he had a big group of voters there at the gold base. But I was watching some of the stuff that went on as Scientology was frantically trying to stop the protests month after month, and then the guy who was in charge of the board was desperately trying to, just cover everything up. It was a fascinating story. So, Japan of Green Gables. Why did Cazares resign as mayor? He didn't resign, not that I'm aware of. His term was over, and he did decide to run for higher office at that point. And then Scientology really derailed his career. And we'll talk more about that. And I'm going to let Gabe tell much of the story, and I'll fill in what I can afterwards. Wise Mama asks, is it true they no longer have public comment in the city council meetings? They really cracked down on it. And this was after I left. I was the lone voice on the council saying, free speech is important. And if they want to come up and say horrific things, ripping us to pieces, they should have that right to do that. Now, hopefully, they bring some reasoning to it. They bring something forward worth listening to, and not just calling us a-holes. That wasn't always the case, but there was such a thin skin among the mayors. When these folks would come from out of town, it was a lot of the armed fishermen fans. The armed fishermen, as I've talked about before, goes from city to city around Florida with a fishing rod and an assault rifle, and he's walking on Clearwater Beach specifically to get the attention of the police, so the police can come and stop him, and then he can say, hey, you don't know the law, you're arresting me. We didn't arrest him, but you can't detain me, you can't question me. It's legal to be walking with a gun and a fishing pole, which is true. Apparently a law was made. So if you're out in the woods hunting or fishing on a stream, and you're worried that a bear or something's going to come up on you, you can have a gun there, for protection. Not walking on a public beach, but the law, if there is any laws anymore, it's hard to understand exactly what's happening in the country now, where everything is being shut down except hate speech. So by the time I left the council, they were really cracking down on people making comments. And as soon as the new council came in with the new mayor, they put a stop to all comments. And then they loosened it up so that, there used to be, you used to have 3 minutes at the opening of the meeting for anyone from the city or anyone who wanted to come in to talk would have 3 minutes to talk about anything that they wanted. Didn't have to be on topic. It could be, whatever's on your mind. And then the mayor that when I was there decided, we're wasting a lot of the staff time, because there are times where there was an hour worth of comments from the audience before we actually got down to work, which all of our staff was there for, folks who are heads of different departments who have to come and report something in the meetings. They would have to sit there patiently while everyone kind of vented. And so there was a move to put all the comments at the end of the meeting. So that happened right before I left. And then the new council said, if you're from out of town, you don't get to speak. And then they kind of loosened that up. So if there's something on the agenda, like, benches in the park, for example, if that's something that is going to be voted on in that meeting, the public can still come and have 3 minutes to talk about that particular issue. But the open-ended talk about anything you want, they crack down on that. And I don't know what the current status of that is. I know they loosened it up to not just Clearwater, but some of the outlying nearby areas. I can't tell you for sure what it is. My feeling, though, was, don't panic about it. These guys who would come, they'd create a scene because we kept giving them reasons to create a scene. We kept having them hauled out of meetings, and that meant 2 more people would come the next time to create a bigger scene. And this just kept building and building and building. And as much as I tried to convince everyone else on the council, listen, if you just let them talk, it will die down. Don't give them ammunition to want to come back here and make this a First Amendment issue, So, there's still a lot of restrictions on it, that's basically what I know. Kenny says hi. Hi, Kenny. I saw you there. I've just been babbling around trying to think of stuff that people have been mentioning here. Let's see. Someone said they are now only doing a town hall meeting, but at a town hall, they don't need to keep records of complaints brought forward. That's not true. Anytime there's a meeting of more than one council member in public, only one person can talk. So if I attended an event where the mayor was speaking, everyone else, we could talk personally with people who showed up in the crowd. We could answer questions, all that kind of stuff. But we couldn't get up to say give our own thoughts on it, because then it would become a public meeting where we would have to have a stenographer there or a city clerk creating a record of every single comment that we made. So there was that rule. And if you're doing a town hall meeting, if it's one person, like the mayor doing a town hall meeting, I don't know that there'd be no record of any of the comments. But those town meetings aren't that often. And generally when those things happen, it's because there's a particular issue that we're dealing with, like, making improvements to the North Greenwood community, getting people's input on what they would like to see improved there. Questions like that, how the city should move forward with the various issues. There would be a lot of people from the staff there, and there would be a record of everything that's going on. The silencing of people really only happens during the end of the council meeting. Oh, that's what she said, listening at 1.5 times the speed, and I hope that it doesn't turn me into a chipmunk. That is just speeding it up without affecting the voice. I'm assuming that's the way it is. I listen to a lot of books on tape that way. 1.25 though. 1.5 is a little distracting. Do you ever wish I had run for city council in Tarpon Springs? Asked Japan of Green Gables instead of Clearwater, so you could get free baklava. Look, I really respect all your work and activism combating Scientology. Mark, but baklava is good. I'm going to take your word for it. It's not something that, pour a lot of chocolate on it, maybe. Smear some chocolate there. Maybe I'll grow to like it more. I understand people crave it. But no, I not because of baklava, but I moved here to Clearwater because I cared about the future of Clearwater. It was because of Scientology's impact here that brought me here and brought me back. So if I were in Tarpon Springs or Largo or Dunedin, I probably wouldn't run for office at all. Not that I don't care about everything in the city and trying to make things better. But no one wants to address Scientology in Clearwater. So there was a need for someone to be willing to keep the pressure on. And good golly, Miss M says, Mark, you need to be back on the city council. That will be up to the voters if that happens again. So Gabe, I'm assuming that you folks who are here probably know quite a bit about Gabe and his history. He's going to give you a lot of the background in this video. But he was the first to stand up and say, listen, this group that came into town as United Churches, this is really Scientology. What the hell's going on? His questioning is what got everything rolling here. And that's why they had all these operations to destroy him and then ultimately derail his political career. And one of the nastiest things that they did after the FBI raids where they uncovered all of these documents about the covert operations against Gabe, Gabe sued Scientology. And he hired an attorney that he met at his country club playing golf. He said, hey, Gabe, I'm a lawyer. I'll handle your case. And he hired this guy. This guy kind of botched the case. And it was discovered not too long after that this guy was a Scientologist who they brought in from another state specifically to befriend Gabe at the country club and do this. And it was disbarred. When we had all of Gabe's records at the Lisa McPherson Trust, there was a letter that he received from this attorney saying, hey, Gabe, it's been a few years now, and I was just wondering if you might, write a letter asking for me to get my bar membership back. And that was a big no from Gabe. I mean, but this is how incredibly low Scientology and Scientologists will go. Yeah, you take an oath to uphold the law, and Scientology's request is more important to you than the law. You should not be just disbarred. You should be behind bars. Does the Tampa Bay Times still have a reporter assigned to Scientology? It's a good question. Apparently, they do have somebody who's covering Scientology. At least that was my understanding, that they were going to assign it to somebody else. But there's been a whole bunch of cutbacks there, and they may not have anyone full time on Scientology. They may not. Apparently, there's nobody covering local politics anymore, the way you would see Tracy at not just our city council meetings, but all the other meetings that the city held, and other various cities as well. She was covering multiple cities. Apparently, the cutbacks have stopped all of that. So are we going to see anyone? Are we going to see the type of coverage that they did when Tracy McManus was there? It's unlikely because they spent a lot of money and time. They gave her the luxury of saying, you know, you've got this story about Scientology secretly buying up all the buildings. Get this, take your time, get this story done. And she had months and months and months to work on that, which is a luxury. I mean, well, especially in TV news, the news breaks that day, you have to report that day. So a lot of your job is what just happened? All right, here's the details. Investigative reporting, where you're digging deep, trying to find out what the hell's going on, really, that we're not supposed to know. That takes time, that takes money, and that takes a newspaper publisher who's willing to invest that. And nowadays, it's so difficult for these print publications to stay alive because the advertising has fallen out. Most people are not subscribing to the print edition anymore, so you're getting news online, and there's so many options, and those ads that you have on the Tampa Bay Times website don't pay the same that at the same level of ads that were published in a newspaper. So it's a scary time for journalism at the very time when we need it most. I tell you, I'm sick about what's happening on the national level here. Witness. Hi, Mark. Good to see you. And you too. And witnesses agree, Mark. It takes a lot of time and energy to untangle the Scientology stuff. Yeah. And, thank God there are people who have been doing that for decades now. It would be nice to know that somebody young and energetic will be brought up to speed on Scientology and given a chance to do the coverage that is needed. I think, some of the people that were on the beat back when I first moved here in 2000, like Tom Tobin was reporting the Scientology beat at the time, and Joe Childs. So they moved up to editorial positions, and they kind of mentored Tracy and had her back and could help her understand when she came to town what they were dealing with. And I think that Tom Tobin's still there. I'm not sure about Joe Childs. I hope they're both there. But it's been a wholesale gutting of newsrooms everywhere. Anyway, let's start watching this story from this video that includes Gabe Cazares from years after his time as mayor. But when this was shot, he was actually on the city council. So he ran for council after having been mayor and served there. And as I was talking about at the very opening of this video, the other person we're going to see in here is Wayne Shelor, who was a journalist at this time and then became the spokesperson for the Clearwater police afterwards. And the frustrating thing is you can tell from the way he's talking about Scientology in there, he knows how Scientology operates. He knows what they do. But when it came time for him to be the mouthpiece for the police department, not in a negative way, that's not meant to be a slur. You when you're the spokesperson, you speak what the police chief wants you to say. And the chief at that point, when I first met Chief Klein, coming into town, I extended my hand and said, Chief, it's nice to meet you. I'm a big supporter of the Clearwater Police, and I admire everything that you folks have done over the years. And he wouldn't shake my hand. He just stared at me and said, "You're getting our way, and I'll arrest you." And that made me go, okay, this is a little bit different reception than I was expecting coming to Clearwater. But it was interesting. And you know, if you saw the video of the mad picket, you can see all the cops being called to the scene, and you can see the craziness going on with the Scientologists shouting and shoving and making this into a huge event, whereas we just had a handful of people walking back and forth quietly with signs. The police would blame us for instigating this, and it's so frustrating. I've seen all their articles, says Witness. Really amazing work, in my opinion. Thanks to those reporters for their work. Joe Childs, Tom Tobin. Yep. And question from Nisa, isn't Scientology using some kind of monopoly by buying every single commercial building in Clearwater? Well, the thing is, it's not illegal for anyone to buy a building. They're buying it secretly. They're buying it with cash, hundreds of millions of dollars in cash being paid by these anonymous LLCs to buy these buildings in a coordinated effort from Miscavige. But unless there's some proof of that, there's not a lot that can be done about it. There's the laws in Florida really give so much power to the property owner, and there are not a lot of options for shutting anything down. As long as the building is kept up to code, nothing we can do about it. If it's empty, as long as it's up to code where if somebody were to step in there, they wouldn't be injured, or there's no fire threat or anything, structural damage, anything like that. Those things need to be taken care of, but it costs a lot less to just keep something up to code rather than actually putting a business in there and doing business. And yeah, this is coordinated. This is wrong. There ought to be something that can be done about it, because no other property owner buys properties to let them sit empty for now 10 years in many cases. And we looked at everything we can do when I was on the council. Public domain is something that the city is willing to do if there's a reasonable way to use it. For instance, we need parking downtown. Scientology's got parking lots right across from the library. We could use public domain to seize those parking lots. Then you have to pay them for it. You have to pay market value for the parking spaces. And that would be a justifiable thing. Any building that you seize through public domain, or am I saying that right? I'm saying public domain, and it's like, no, that's when movies are out of copyright. I forget what the term is now. Anything you use that on has to be, that property then has to be used for governmental use or city use. It can't be turned over to somebody else and say, hey, why don't you build a mall here? Seizing a property like that there has to be some reason that it's beneficial for the city that the city can provide. LF says you need a vacant unit tax, and there are some restrictions on that here. We did look into that, and in the state, it's incredibly low. You just can't say, okay, if the place is going to be vacant, it's going to cost you $100,000 a month until you put something in there. No, it's really like $50, $100, something like that, as I remember, and they'll just pay it. Okay, sure. Yeah. You need your little tax. It's like when the city told Scientology, do not cut down those 2 majestic trees across from the Fort Harrison for an event. I know you want to put up your tent there, but we want to save those trees. And they just cut them down. And then said, oh, you want to fine us? Okay, here's the money. We don't care. We wanted to put a tent there. But would their shell companies be tax exempt as well? It depends what the company is. If it's one of these LLCs to purchase properties, there's not a religious aspect to it, so that would not be tax exempt. How much tax you can get from an LLC with an empty building is, again, fairly minimal compared to what you would get if there was a business in there generating activity and money and tax. Eminent domain, yes, thank you, with an E, eminent domain. Appreciate that. And I see Alan had it right. Thank you, Alan. Witness says they just bought a large building in Denmark, Miriam said the other day. Weird, in my opinion. Nothing weird about it. They got money to spend. And that's, that's one way that they can buy a building and say it's going to be our new org. And they can get the parishioners to pay for it, pay for sprucing it up, and then taking on the electrical bills and all this kind of stuff that comes with it. And then Miscavige can do a big announcement at a meeting. And we just opened this beautiful new org in Denmark. It's an ideal org, and people are just rushing in through the doors now. And before long, Denmark will be the first Scientology country. It's buying the property is like a corporate shell game, and they got the money to blow on it. Here's a comment from Nisa. They are just wasting money left and right. Yeah, but when you got $3 billion in the bank, go ahead and waste it. What's important to Miscavige is keeping people away from his properties downtown. He doesn't want prying eyes around Flag. And so if the parishioners are forced to buy buildings, or more likely Scientology has gotten money into the hands of these parishioners in order to buy up these properties, there's no other organization in the world that I'm aware of that would buy property to leave it empty. Sure. Well, Walt Disney World bought a lot of property around Disney World. And that, again, was to keep people away from their property and not build their little motels and make all the money for visitors to Anaheim when they're visiting Disneyland. No, stay in our hotels. So spending the money to buy everything in a sweeping nature around Disney World to keep the competitors at arm's length, yeah, that makes sense. Scientology ain't no Disney World. Here in Canada, oh man, oh, I wish we were all there in Canada. Charities have to use a percentage of donations. We are not allowed to just sit on the money. I assume it's the same in the US. You have to prove that you're doing some charitable good. I don't know that there's a percentage of donations that have to be put toward anything. I'm certain you have to show that, oh yes, we are, doing the public good here. Denny says hello to the beautiful people. And for those of us who are not quite up to beautiful, we have to wait until he says hi to us. Okay. That's what she said. In Clearwater, what percentage of the population are Scientologists? Very tiny. I mean, at the most, there's 5,000 Scientologists in this area. And there are, 117,000 people living here in Clearwater. So, it's a small percentage. They try to make an impact here. They certainly are doing what Hubbard suggested of getting out there and being part of all the neighborhood groups and getting a post in positions where you are close to power. Don't run for office, but make sure that everyone is running for office and you can help them in different projects and all that. So you Safe Point Scientology. Michael Andreas says, I see nothing in the IRS code that requires people or churches donating a specific or using specific money to the benefit of mankind, I assume. The Mormon Church is reported to have billions as well. I'm trying to bring up, man, why is it doing this to me? I'm trying to show, let me bring this up. This is a free country and they are violating people's constitutional rights by just buying those buildings just to keep people away. What rights can you really point to? Again, people have the right to buy property and do with it what they want within limits. You couldn't have a strip club near a church or a school, for instance. But beyond certain regulations like that, if you're in a business and you're buying a building that you say is going to be for business and you just leave it sit there for 10 years without putting a business in there, we're getting to it. Don't worry. It's going to be used for business. And any fine that you put on is going to be negligible. All right. So again, back to Gabe, back to this video. I think this is interesting, and we'll stop and start as we go along here, and I'll answer some questions that come up. This was done for a local historical society. There is a place called Heritage Village, and they have homes, historical homes from different cities that were brought to this essentially large plot of land. And you can go and visit this and see homes from, the late 1800s through early 20th century. And there's an open floor plan for most of them, so you can stop in and see what shop looked like or regular home back then looked like. And it's a nice place. And they have a little library type of historical society place there, where I discovered they had videotapes, including this one that I checked out years and years and years ago. Quality is not great on this. I tried to fix the video. It really wasn't possible to make any improvement to the video. Did improve the audio. And this is what the tape sounded like when it was created. because of a poor placement of microphones and the way it sounded on my YouTube channel for quite some time now. So here's how it opens.
Today is April 16th, 1983. We're here with Wayne Shelor and Commissioner Gabe Cazares to discuss the issue of Scientology. This tape is primarily for use with the archives at Heritage Park. In 1975, the religious cult Scientology purchased an historical landmark in the city of Clearwater. The Fort Harris.
Now, could you pay attention to anything other than rustling papers during that? I mean, it was just like, good Lord. So I was able to fix the sound, so it's not quite as bad. And you see his mic is right there in front of Gabe the entire time. So anytime he goes for a paper, you get that crinkling sound. The folks who are there in the room can't hear it. And I don't know if there is anyone at the control room who was listening to it through headsets and going, oh my God, we got to do something about that crinkle. Any rate, this is what it's going to sound like now.
Today is April 16th, 1983. We're here with Wayne Shelor and Commissioner Gabe Cazares to discuss the issue of Scientology. This tape is primarily for use with the archives at Heritage Park. In 1975, the religious cult Scientology purchased an historical landmark in the city of Clearwater, the Fort Harrison Hotel. It made this purchase under the guise of the United Churches of Florida. Commissioner Cazares spearheaded the movement to question and clarify the sources of this purchase and the purposes of Scientology in general. Since that time, the Scientologists have purchased $10.7 million in the city of Clearwater, and Commissioner Cazares has been the subject of a maze of suits and countersuits, as well as a victim of smear campaigns. Commissioner Cazares, as one of the major Clearwater figures, who is one of our persons who knows most about Scientology, first of all, can you give us a little background on yourself? I know you were born in Alpine, Texas, and you were in the service. How did you get to the city of Clearwater?
You started off with a bad question. You're assuming that I was born in Alpine, Texas, which is something that I believed and had always accepted as fact until the Scientologists came to Clearwater. They went to Alpine, Texas, and tried to find evidence of my birth. And they went out to the cemeteries, looked at the tombstones, went to the newspaper files in the county court, and they could find no record that my birth had been registered anywhere. And they aren't aware of the fact that back in 1920, when I was born, it wasn't exactly a required thing that children born to Mexican parents had to go through all these bureaucratic bits of red tape. But I was born there. It's been established. And I was brought up in California. I attended Los Angeles City College and Fresno State College until Pearl Harbor. Right after Pearl Harbor, I enlisted in the Army Air Corps as a private. I spent a career in the Air Force. It was interrupted for a few years. When I got out to complete my education, I served in Europe in the Army Air Force, and I got out in 1946, and I attended Texas Christian University, where I obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. And very fortunately, my studies included the use of power and groups and religions and anthropology. So this kind of prepared me for some of the things that were going to come later. I went back in the Air Force. I retired in 1966 as a regular Air Force lieutenant colonel. So I've had extensive experience in the military, and I think it has helped me recognize some of the characteristics of this organization that has now actually occupied Clearwater. And that's where we are right now. Thank you.
But you were mayor of the city of Clearwater at the time that the Scientologists made their first purchase, were you not?
Yes, they came in the fall of 1975. I talked to the leaders of this group that at the time was known as United Churches of Florida. Scientology hadn't entered the picture yet. Here's a group that said they were an ecumenical organization that was here to raise the moral level of our community. And immediately coming from Los Angeles, where you get all kinds of gimmicks and all kinds of groups that come in and try new things, new movements, and I became immediately leery of them because I consider that Pinellas County and Upper Pinellas County in particular has a very strong religious base. We've got an organization, Religious Community Services, which is one of the finest interdenominational ecumenical groups in the entire country. They not only serve their congregations and the Catholic churches and Protestant denominations and Jewish temples in our community, but they reach into the inner city and find out what unmet social needs they are. And they work to improve the lot of the poor and the aged and the sick, the medically indigent. They've got some terrific programs. There are no for sale signs on any of our churches. They can't build them, and they can't expand fast enough. As soon as they do, they overload the system. But this was what bothered me most about this group, United Churches of Florida, coming in and saying that they were going to do something for our community. When I found that their leaders were from Los Angeles, I'm aware of that place. And if there's ever been a den of iniquity, a place that begs for some outreach, for some moral uplifting, it's California. And leaving such fertile ground for Florida immediately started vibrations.
Why is Scientology an issue in Pinellas County, in the city of Clearwater in particular? Is the issue that Scientology may or may not be a religion as such, or is the issue the manner in which they entered our community?
Well, I think initially the thing that got people concerned about this organization and that led them to raise objections to their being here was the fact that they came into our community and they lied. They lied to the public officials. They said, "Oh, we're United Churches of Florida." They went into our temples and into our churches, and this is unforgivable. I don't know what kind of ethics is involved here, but for them to go to a Methodist minister, for example, and say, "Hey, we're an ecumenical group. We want to tie in with you. We want to put you on the air." They lied to all of our ministers in the town. They came in surreptitiously, and this was the initial problem. It wasn't until after we smoked them out, we put the pressure on, we kept asking them, "Who are you and why are you here?" that finally things got to the point where they had to say who they were, and people started flying in from Los Angeles, from New York, from all over the world. I was told at the time that there was an attorney flying in from Honolulu to sue me. And I said, "What have I done? I've just asked about this group." Well, at that initial press conference, when they finally came out and said, "Okay, we're Scientologists, so what?" So what? I'd never heard of the word Scientology. I couldn't even pronounce it. So they had lied to our people. And I looked up from my office in the city hall in downtown Clearwater, and I could see the Fort Harrison, a place that had catered to our business and cultural and social community for a quarter of a century, that had done very well. It was a center of our entire city, and it had been taken over by United Churches of Florida, who said they were leasing it from the Southern Land Development Leasing Corporation. As a former stockbroker, I'd never heard of Southern Land Development Leasing Corporation. As it turns out, they were one and the same. The people involved in both organizations were Scientologists. That's what bothered the people at Clearwater, that they came in like thieves in the night. And actually, in retrospect, we can verify now that what has happened here is that for the first time in the over 200 years that our nation has existed, an American city has been taken over, has been occupied. This is a virtual occupation, a military-type occupation by a paramilitary terrorist organization. I can prove it. I've got right here before me a cover sheet for a secret project, Normandy. This is one of several papers that were obtained not through surreptitious methods. We didn't steal them. We didn't fabricate them. We had said when they first came in, I had made a statement that Scientology was a real threat to our community, that they had intended to take over our city. This was from my guts, from everything that I saw. It just didn't make sense. They said it isn't so. In July of 1977, almost 2 years after they had moved into our community and infiltrated most of our civic, social, and other organizations, 150 FBI men, Department of Justice representatives, perhaps the biggest task force of this type that had ever been gathered together with search warrants, went to the headquarters of the Scientologists in Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Washington. They took 48,000 documents. These documents, you would expect, if they were from a true church, would include documents that dealt with the problems of the inner city, that taught love and compassion for your fellow man, that showed some concern about the ills of humanity. Not so. A good number of the documents included documents that had been stolen from our most sensitive federal agencies. They included atomic energy papers, papers from the CIA, classified documents, dossiers on our top official in Washington. These were papers that they had obtained by going in to some of our most sensitive federal agencies, planting spies in there and stealing these records. One of the records that came out was of special interest to me because I was sued for $1 million by the Scientologists for saying that they, in effect, had come in to our community to take it over and that they were a real threat. They said I had violated their civil rights and had slandered them. The papers were such that the Clearwater Sun, on November the 3rd, 1979, after it finally got a look at some of these documents, said, hey, Scientologists plot city takeover. Another edition said, hey, they had aims to take over the whole world, international aims. Tropics, published in Miami, Florida, had a story about Scientology's dirty business, how a shrewd religious cult tried to take over a vulnerable Florida city. No one has been sued for these things. They were true. They were based on documents. And I want to close with this statement on this to show, just to prove what had happened. Here's a document marked secret. You know, here's an allegedly religious organization with secret documents to all their different officials. And the major purpose of this, etc., is to get enough data on the Clearwater area to be able to determine what groups B1 will need to penetrate. That's their intelligence organization. They got a guardian organization. They've got the most effective secret type of operation. They got an organization that makes the KGB pale by comparison. They got more dossiers and more intelligence on top leaders than the FBI, CIA, Scotland Yard, and the Interpol put together. But here's the proof. They said, you know, go in there and find out enough about investigate the Clearwater City and County area to find out who our friends are and distinguish them from our enemies and handle as necessary.
Which they did. Bringing it ahead a few years, they then proceeded, once the shroud of secrecy was pulled back, they infiltrated the media, they stole records from attorneys investigating them, they infiltrated the FBI. They promoted smear campaigns against you and other officials and people who spoke out against them. In the interim, they were buying up property in the downtown district of the city. No one really knew what to think. I think there was an air of fear in the city. Both newspapers, the St. Petersburg Times and the Clearwater Sun, hired investigative reporters to center on that. The St. Pete Times eventually won a Pulitzer Prize for their investigation. In recent years, however, neither paper seems to acknowledge the presence of the Scientologists in the city and seem to feel that maybe it's not of interest anymore. However, during last year's Clearwater City elections, the St. Petersburg Times paid an independent research company to find out what was on the citizens' minds. Behind traffic, the Church of Scientology was one of the biggest questions. Is there a bit of apathy among the people now, and is that a dangerous attitude?
I was shocked. After everything that has happened here, based on these 48,000 documents that actually convicted the Scientologists with their own words, papers stolen from federal agencies, their own internal documents, secret intelligence and operations orders, not saying let's go out and do something good for mankind, for humanity. It says let's go out and destroy this person because he's against us. Do whatever you can to drive him out of their games.
Attack.
Fair game policy. Destroy these people. That's the type of thing that was there. Since then, there have been two sequences on 60 Minutes. Reader's Digest has come out with two excellent articles. You mentioned the Pulitzer Prize winning series in the St. Petersburg Times, which exposed this organization as a paramilitary terrorist organization. And yet, their entire top leadership, because of all these things, is in the slammer right now.
They were
Every one of their entire top leaders have been investigated, tried, convicted, sentenced, and have gone to jail for conspiracy against the U.S. government. The biggest conspiracy in history against the U.S. government. I can't think of anything else that compares to it. And yet, a few months ago, unfortunately, the Elks, the BPOE, the best people on earth, an organization that loves children, that contributes a lot of money to help the children of the community. They've done terrific things for our community. They sold their facility to the Scientologists, saying that, well, we can't discriminate against them because of religion. But that is where the whole question comes in.
I think that's one of the largest questions surrounding the entire issue. Is Scientology a religion? Now, the highest court in Australia, which is tantamount to the Supreme Court of the United States, last year ruled that Scientology is not only not a religion, it is the antithesis of a religion. Other countries across the seas have reached similar conclusions. Why is there such a problem in the United States of America? Is it simple red tape and bureaucracy? Are they a religion? Are they being persecuted?
I think the big problem is a lack of understanding of what our founding fathers meant when they brought in the First Amendment to the Constitution about our freedoms. People like to say, hey, the Constitution is sacred. We can't tamper with it, which is true. But the First Amendment merely says this to religion. It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment or religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I won't argue with that, and I won't argue that on behalf of any religion for or against them. I like the Florida Constitution better. I didn't think the U.S. Constitution could be improved on, but the Florida Constitution says this. In Section 2, it says basic rights. No person shall be deprived of any right because of race, religion, or physical handicap. And we all agree with that. This is the American way. But Section 3 says religious freedom. Religious freedom shall not justify practices inconsistent with public morals peace, or safety. This is the thing that people don't understand, that here we have an organization that professes to be a religion that has done some terrible things. If they are religion, it's an odd type of religion to me, one that would conspire against the government, one that would come up with an enemies list that would include, this is another secret paper, prediction in Clearwater, years of 10 March 76. This ought to be a part of our history. This is a document that goes from one Scientologist to another. You ask for a chart of enemy lines used up to this point for the Clearwater attack. This is a military type operation. Attached is a chart. The areas of priority to infiltrate are the St. Petersburg Times, the mayor, I was only second there, Channel 13, Bob Snyder, but the Florida Attorney General, the Florida State Attorney General Russell are enemies of a church, our two top law enforcement agencies in the state of Florida. This is signed Love Dick. I don't know what Dick's relationship is to Duke, but here it is. It says, things have been quite hectic with me the last 2 days. I wanted to send this to you to go over. Any changes or additions you want to make would be fine. So therein lies the confusion. The confusion is that people are hesitant to attack him because they think it's a religion. And
Do you acknowledge them as a religion?
I don't deal with that issue at all. I deal with what they do as an organization.
Isn't it important to deal with it, both having been the mayor of this city and as a county commissioner? Going back to the sale of the Elks Club, and the Elks feared violating the rights of a religious organization. Well, this magnifies itself when the city of Clearwater is trying desperately to revitalize a blighted district. There have been those who have championed the cause of creating an ordinance not to allow any not-for-profit organization other than a governmental entity from taking property off the tax rolls in the downtown district. This idea centers around the presence of the Scientologists.
I don't think religion is the issue. I don't think religion is the issue with any of our destructive cults. It plays right into their hands. I don't discuss it. I discuss what they do. And we have destructive cults that exploit our young people, that take actions against our government, that take the young people away from their families and communities and use them. So I'm dealing with effects, with results. As soon as an organization commits conspiracy against the U.S. government of such gigantic proportions that they have to have 150 FBI agents going to look at the records, I think that they're removed from, I don't think religion is an issue. It wasn't an issue when the government moved in and took 48,000 documents. It's not an issue now. And the sad thing, this is what really hurts. You mentioned a while ago that it appears that there's a certain degree of apathy. I saw an operations order from the Scientologists that said, in effect, the Clearwater Sun's got some bad people that are saying bad things about us. Let's clean them out or buy them or something. And if you look at the list of people from the editor right on down to the copy man, they listed them by name. There's one of those people left on board at the Clearwater Sun. And the other day, and one thing that really made me sick, and one thing that contributes to apathy in this community, I saw an editorial in the Clearwater Sun just the other day that really made me sick. I couldn't believe I was reading what I was reading. In effect, it said, well, sure, we don't like these people any more than anyone else. Sure, they've done some bad things, but they're here. Let's accommodate. Let's live with them. You know, establish a modus vivendi, a modus operandi. Let's get along with them. And I can tell you this: the immediate feeling that I had was, I can't believe it. I know that someone in Munich said something comparable to this about Nazism in the early 30s. In other words, it plays right into their hands when people say, we got to work with them. I don't have to work with Nazis. I don't have to work with the Cosa Nostra. There's no way that anything that these organizations can do would make them acceptable or suitable. And public apathy is a thing that's got to be fought. I would like the people to be reminded every day that here's a group that has occupied your community. You're under occupation. They've got so much power and so much money. L. Ron Hubbard, in effect, made the statement at one time that Scientology was extremely wealthy. Said, with our money, we can buy cities and even countries. And he's in the process of buying out this city. He's putting that statement into effect. They own over $10 million worth of property in the central district that we know of. They got other properties that we don't know about, but they own this. They owe $750,000 in taxes.
Let's address the issue of property taxes, Commissioner Cazares. Many people have been discussing they have been saying that one of the difficulties with Scientology is the problem of eroding our tax base. A lot of people do not understand what that means. And of course, a simple formula of take whatever property you take off the tax roll, someone has to take it out.
That's exactly right.
We currently have a referendum that's addressing property taxes as an issue. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's true?
Yes. Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch. The state of Florida doesn't have an income tax. It ranks 47th in the amount of per capita taxes that our citizens pay. So it means that people are already on the cheap, and they ought to bear their fair share. Anyone who has property is, unless they're exempt, is required to pay an ad valorem tax based on that property. We have a lot of money-making, very profitable organizations that are paying, taxes on their property. The Scientologists owe over $750,000 in back taxes, and it just means that as they take more and more property off the tax rolls in downtown Clearwater and refuse to pay it, someone else has to pay it, or those roads go undone. But meanwhile, without paying taxes, they have full use of the tennis courts. They're almost their tennis courts on the bayfront. That's the Clearwater tennis court area for the Scientologists. It's in their brochures. Their brochures that they send all over the world. It tells them about these wonderful tennis courts. They don't pay a cent. For a while, they were the only organization in the history of Clearwater that got exclusive use of a part of a park. They were running holes in the ground out there at Crest Lake Park, and then over on Coachman Park. But they get other benefits. They show a tax ID number. They've been known to go to our most fashionable stores, Baldwin, for example, Moss Brothers, and buy apparel. And some of the Scientologists say, hey, I don't have to pay Governor Graham's 4%, now 5% sales tax. I got a tax ID number. We all have to pay full cost for our license plates. No, they get an X prefix, which means that they use this vehicle to transport their religious groups to church services.
So they're not paying taxes.
It's all our services.
They're getting a free lunch. They're getting a free lunch, and they don't have a tax bill, and they don't have a labor bill. Because what they do when they get some of these young people that want to study Scientology or Dianetics, after they get them brainwashed, they get them to sign a billion-year contract to clear the planet. Right here in the city of Clearwater. Billion-year contract to clear the planet, whatever that means. I don't know if people knew what they were getting into when they signed on for that big experiment in South America and Guyana, but they get $3 to $20 a week, maybe, pay. What they do is work all day and do all the jobs that have got to be done in an organization of this type, the clerical work. They do work in the Fort Harrison Hotel to cater to all our visitors from all over the world that bring big bucks. And after they do this all day, then they study all night. No wonder that they're bombed out.
Well, Commissioner, their arrears in their taxes several years, and it's purportedly because of their religious status. Were I a businessman in downtown Clearwater and arrears that much in tax, it has been in the courts. The property appraiser has said they must pay this. If I didn't, wouldn't the city or the county commission order the sheriffs to lock my doors and lock me out?
Well,
and why can it not be applicable to them? Why is the county and the city, why are their hands tied?
Well, they're in the courts. The Scientologists haven't exhausted all their appeals. I hope that in the very near future, we're going to get a ruling on it. The Internal Revenue Service also has some deep concerns about their failure to pay taxes. Another cult, the Moonies, their leader, has been sentenced for tax evasion. He's doing the same thing. You know, he's got all the Moonies doing his work at Tarrytown and at Gloucester, Massachusetts, and selling flowers here on the streets in Pinellas County. Not the ones on the sidewalk with a little transistor in their ear. Those are just kids trying to make a living, trying to make a buck. But I'm talking about the adults out in the middle in the intersections selling flowers. But anyway, there's real money involved here. It's estimated that they're pulling perhaps $1 million a week out of Clearwater. They were in their heyday. I don't know if they're doing it anymore. But that's an awful lot of bread. It's estimated that the assets of this corporation are $1 billion. Now, L. Ron Hubbard has been known to do a lot of speculating in the market. Gold, silver, different commodities. He's in the market. He's got brokers in one of the member firms, New York Stock Exchange, in La Jolla, California, who are Scientologists. But my whole point is that this organization that is very, very rich is getting all of this money. Where it's going, I don't know. It's not going to the community to help our different social service programs that are suffering from federal and state cutbacks, that are threatening to have to close their doors right now. Some people are getting awfully rich, and I wish they just share part of their profits with the tax collector and here in Pinellas County and with the IRS.
Commissioner Cazares, you mentioned L. Ron Hubbard a couple of times. We really haven't.
I just wanted to talk about a couple quick things here. Gabe, as you can see, Gabe is remarkable. He mentioned at one point historical society documents should be in there. We have now the Heritage Park is different from the Clearwater Historical Society. The Clearwater Historical Society is just a couple blocks away from Scientology on Fort Harrison Boulevard. And early on when I was in office, one of the women at the Historical Society was telling me how much she appreciated what I was doing and what a remarkable story it is that Scientology is here in Clearwater. And I said, well, you really should do a series of lectures here. You should have a Scientology exhibit. You should talk about the way they came into town and attacked Gabe and the covert operations done against this. You can have a series of speakers like Leah Remini and Mike Rinder and members who were part of this story, sharing their experiences. And the response was, we can't do that, which is, the big problem. People know there's a reason to be doing this stuff, but not us. Because they know it's just going to be a hell from Scientology if they do. And I wish people had a better backbone than that. Leah and Mike had talked often about opening a business downtown, ice cream parlor, for example. It's not too late to do that, Leah. And it'd be a good place to have ice cream parlor and historical museum at the same time and do those lectures. Just a thought. And the other thing I wanted to mention is Wayne Shelor. You can tell from his questioning, he knows Scientology. He understands the way they operate. And I understood when he was the spokesperson for the Clearwater Police, while the LMT was there, he couldn't be talking about his own personal opinions about Scientology and whatever abuse they may have done or continue to do. But when he left the police department, he was working in the public space, working for private companies rather is what I meant. And when Leah Remini, Scientology, and the Aftermath did a two-parter show on Clearwater, one of the sitting councilwomen was supposed to be a guest on the show, along with me and the other folks who were there, my attorney, and I'm blanking on everyone's name nowadays. But at any rate, the councilwoman dropped out at the last minute. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to track down Wayne Shelor. He doesn't have to keep his mouth shut anymore. He'd be a great guest to have on there. So I tracked him down where he worked, and you tried to get a message to him there, and that failed. So I found his home address, and I went knocking on the door just to ask, hey, you want to come on the show? But no one responded, even though there were people home at the time. So that didn't happen. But again, it takes good people who know what's going on to have the bravery to just do the simple thing that I'm doing, just talking. I don't know why it's that difficult. I understand that some people have more to lose than I do. But really, looking on the national scale now, people who are resigning their positions in the government over wholly illegal and unethical things, good for them. That's the type of backbone you have to have in order to deal with something like Scientology. You have to be willing to just stand up and be counted. That's the end of my soapbox for now. Gabe has got something incredibly important to say. So we will go back to him right now.
Laid the background down a little bit. Maybe we should just describe Scientology and who L. Ron Hubbard is, the origins as we know them, just briefly.
All right, fine. L. Ron Hubbard was a very prolific writer of science fiction. And when he came up with Dianetics, I think he still had science fiction in mind. I think he must have read Orwell's 1984. And I just reread it, and the parallels are unbelievable. But he's made some claims. If you want to establish the credentials of a church, and you can't avoid looking at its leader to find out, what is his claim to fame? What has he done? What entitles him to be a charismatic leader, to be called a humanitarian educator, and all this? L. Ron Hubbard, has lied from the beginning. Everything in his biography is a pack of lies. He claimed to be an atomic energy student, one of the first people to get involved in nuclear physics. I've seen transcripts of his grades from George Washington University, where it shows that he flunked or withdrew, failing from many of these courses. He got an A in physical ed. All right.
Well, he made many claims that have since been proved to be a charade.
But this is a character of the man, and they should warn his followers about what kind of man he is. I was in the military. Well, he claimed that he was a military hero, that it was while he was almost dying from wartime wounds that he was inspired to come up with Dianetics. Baloney. The truth is that there's nothing in the records to show that he ever got even a Purple Heart. Our nation rewards its heroes very liberally. I used to have the awards branch for the Department of the Air Force and the Pentagon. I know. I signed all those certificates.
You're heavily decorated yourself.
Well, I've earned a couple of awards for service. But in this case, there's no record that he ever got an award for anything, that he ever suffered a wartime wound. He did suffer ulcers. I saw a letter from him to the Veterans Administration practically begging them to admit him to some kind of a treatment center where they could study his problems with his head. He couldn't relate. He was really a psychiatric mess. and he hasn't improved. His son has made that statement, but he says he's been to, he's a PhD, and when you track down where he got his degree, you find out that it's a post office box, Sequoia University in California. No ivy-covered campus there. He's a DD. You'd think, well, now here we're getting to something. Doctor of Divinity for leader of a church. Not so. They find out that actually DD, in his case, when he's pinned down and couldn't produce a Doctor of Divinity or attendance at the seminar, he said, well, I meant Doctor of Dianetics. So he's been, just a whole, his whole record is full of falsehoods.
He's created a religion around a book on self-improvement.
Okay.
And even though his background is questionable.
Yeah. The book he came out was with, in 1950, he came out with a book, Dianetics of Modern Science and Mental Health. And the fact is that experts, psychiatrists, the American Medical Association, and others studied this. They became very interested. If this is a solution to our problems, we don't have to send people for advanced degrees in psychiatry, psychology anymore, which is what the Scientologists want you to believe. But their studies indicated that, in fact, many of the people that were drawn to Scientology, that got involved in Dianetics because of the rigidity, the discipline of these techniques, sometimes were beyond institutionalization. There have been records of suicides, of real mental problems. And unfortunately, what happened there, because they wrote an article called Scientology, a Menace to Mental Health, they were sued. The American Medical Association was sued, and they went into the closet. And the Scientologists got the clue then. They said, okay, as soon as people say something bad about us, let's sue them. And it's normally enough to intimidate people, to harass them, to scare them. No one likes depositions or interrogatories. I've been in the courts with them for 7 years now. And usually it's enough to break a person. And a person that's relying on income that might be jeopardized by these court cases is liable to go into hiding. This is psychological legal terrorism, where the law is used to scare people. But anyway, the effectiveness of Dianetics has been the challenge. There's a book called Snapping that people are Flo Conway and Jim Siegel that people want to read. There's an article in Scientific American. In every case, they say that the people who get caught up in Dianetics, which involves a counselor, an auditor, and a lot of techniques that in effect get you hypnotized and get you brainwashed, that it's very, very difficult to come out of this.
Commissioner, in recent months, several national news weekly magazines such as Newsweek and Time magazine have come out with less than glowing stories on the Church of Scientology, as did the CBS News program 60 Minutes. Last year, the city of Clearwater spent a little over $100,000 of the taxpayers' money on a series of public hearings at which, incidentally, the Scientologists refused to participate. They labeled the entire hearings a witch hunt. The city brought in disillusioned former Scientologists, attorneys who had been working on other cases, to put this all on the record for the city. Do you think the city gained anything by it? Has anything come of those hearings?
Absolutely. Those hearings will become a part of the history of Clearwater, of Pinellas County, of Florida, and America. Something has happened here that is unlike anything that has ever happened before, and the sociologists who ought to be out here jumping on this case study, a live case study, just aren't around. They're still in their ivory towers. Someday they're going to read about what happened here and say, hey, we had some real live history going on there that we should have studied to understand what gets people to go into a destructive cult. Why do the people let a group come in and take over their community, take over their top cultural center, the waterfront hotel, motel in the tourist community. Take all this property, take their children, take the kids away from them, permit things to go on in the basement of that Fort Harrison that are unbelievable when you read some of the affidavits about people there. But this is all part of history, and if it hadn't been for those hearings, we may have missed out on a lot. This is something that the people have got to understand, that the Scientologists selected Clearwater to be their international headquarters.
Why do you believe they picked Clearwater?
They had friends. They had friends in the Tampa area. Scientologists were in Tampa before they came to Clearwater, and they had friends here. But they just took over Clearwater by chance. They first went to St. Petersburg, and to the credit of the Bond family that owned many properties over there, when this group came to them and said, hey, we want to buy this, it looked like too good of a deal. But they couldn't find out, really, they couldn't get a handle on who these people are. And handle is their favorite word. The Scientologists love, we got to handle this or get a handle on this. But anyway, the Bond family, who were part of that community, at the last moment decided not to sell them the properties over there because they weren't satisfied that they were who they said they were. We had some absentee landowners here of the Jack Tar Hotel. They had the same reservations. And when the Scientologists said, well, you're asking too many questions, if you aren't satisfied, we'll take our money and go home. They had $2.3 million in the petty cash fund, and this is too much for the greedy owners of the Fort Harrison Hotel, the Jack Tar people. They took their money and they ran. They didn't anything about the community. They didn't feel any sense of responsibility to the community, and that's a sad part. So they came to Clearwater. Now the Scientologists make a big thing about clear water. We want to clear everybody.
You're in a state of mind you can attain.
And this may have been it, but I think it was people that were here and are still here in the area, people that we don't know. It's so bizarre to believe that anything like this could happen here, that when you talk about fifth column, a term that became popular in Europe in the 30s, when the Nazis would send someone into a community or a country to be their advanced people, to lay the groundwork, to find out who their friends and enemies are. The Scientologists did the same thing. They've got friends here who invited them here, who are still here, who are behind the scenes. And
well, Commissioner, when they first arrived in
I just wanted to interrupt for a moment. Talk about a couple of different things. Why Clearwater? I've been digging through a lot of my old footage, and Jerry Armstrong talks about that. I'll let him tell the story himself, but I was looking at some of the interviews that I've had, and what I was digging for, I found yesterday, the footage where Jerry walked me around King Arthur's court in Dunedin, and pointed out this is where Hubbard kind of stashed away all the folks who had been on the ship. He had an office there. Mary Sue had an office. He pointed out where the guns were stored, and where the different things were happening. He talked a little bit in there about why Clearwater as well. So I'm going to put that together and then have Jerry on here to talk in a live interview, and we'll do that fairly soon when we can work out a time for that. The other thing I wanted just to mention is Gabe talked about how valuable those 1982 hearings were. And back then, $110,000 for hearings was a pretty expensive affair. Now, we spend $110,000 or more just to do a study on something that we may or may not do in the city. But those, Gabe was right, those hearings are what's lasting. And as I continue to improve the quality of sound on those, I think I'm going to and not just have them on the website with video, but I think I'll also turn it into a podcast. So folks, driving in the car or whatever, can listen to the good quality audio of the trials. And that type of thing, that's the permanent record of what happened here and what happened across the country and the world when these folks testified about Scientology and the way it behaves. So let's go back to more Gabe. Simple as this.
And they made it a point of telling the people in the community that they were going to improve the moral fabric of the community. They began New Clearwater for the 80s, a group that was going to improve the district financially and build new buildings. They tried to start up a program called the Cazares Society to aid the elderly people of the area.
That scared them.
Those programs seem to have fallen by the wayside, but that notwithstanding, do you see any good for the city of Clearwater as a whole coming from the presence of the Scientologists?
Never.
Not a thing?
Never. I think it's been good to this extent. We found out who many of the people are in Clearwater who are more concerned with their own financial well-being and comfort than they are with the rest of the community. And it's a very small number, but it's surprising who the apologists are, who the people are who stand to gain and profit by the presence of the Scientologists here, the ones that sell these big buildings, the West Coast Hotel, the Sandcastle, the Commune over on US 19, the Oak Quality Inn, the Heart of Clearwater Motel. But there's some citizens that have made some real sacrifices psychologically to fight for Clearwater, because that's what it is. It's a matter of survival. And Clearwater is going to survive. I just can't believe for 1 minute that an organization whose entire top leadership has been convicted of conspiracy against the U.S. government, who has, on record, come into a community by stealth, surreptitiously, with a lot of lies, to occupy the community, to destroy people. That is so contrary to what the Americans have been told is the American way of life, and their way of doing things, that I can't believe that the Scientologists will ever survive. They're going to go away, but meanwhile it's caused a lot of pain and inconvenience for some people, but they can't survive.
But the city will weather it.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be stronger for it.
Great.
Commissioner, we know that you have another engagement to go to. Can we wrap up with what efforts should be going on, and as well as what efforts are going on to fight the Scientologists?
Sure. And I should say at this point that wherever possible, I've tried to relate to factual documents, and in many cases their own documents. But right now, two things. Work with the Citizens Freedom Foundation, American Family Foundation. These are two organizations that have no access to grind. They're mostly made up of people who say, hey, we got to come out of the closet.
They are national anti-cult
organizations. They're not, well, you can call them anti-cult. I like to say that they're pro-freedom, pro-truth more than anti-cult, because anti gives a negative impact. But someone has got to provide the facts. A group of courageous people.
No, unfortunately, it cuts off there. But it's an interesting conversation, and I'm glad that Gabe did it and Wayne did it, and that the Heritage Society put it all on tape and made that available to the public. So there was a point toward the end that I wanted to talk about, but offhand, I can't think of it right now. I do see this question here that is a tough one. So many levels. Mark, thanks for all you do. I have a question for you. Do you think the current drama going on in the ex-Scientologist world is an OSA op, or is it damaged people just trying to figure things out? You know, there are people with varying viewpoints. There are people with quirks, and there are people who can be justifiably upset with something and wanting to speak out and try to get some justice. I have tried to stay out of all of it, even though people say, Mark, do what the anonymous thing, what you did with anonymous. Just go in there, say something brilliant, and then they'll all quiet down and everything will be happy. I don't think it's going to work that way. So I think there are just basically individuals expressing shock and outrage and wanting to, say what they think is right. I also think that there probably are Scientologist third-party people in there stirring things up as well to amplify it. But I can see the passions on all sides. And I think everyone has some portion of the truth that is justifiable. And there's just going to be personalities that differ. Unfortunately, it can't all be the lovely place that Xenu TV is. We have conquered the peaceful, rational conversation here. And I think that's the best I can do. I don't think it's anything beyond just, some people think one thing and some people think another. Same way I can go on the internet and see things in the news that I think, my God, I can't believe this is happening in America. And the other people are going, thank God this is happening in America. Who's right, who's wrong? We each think we're right. Ultimately, turns out I'm right. But, that's just the way it goes. We'll have to see how things shake out. Let's see, Witness agrees with me. There are definitely instigators like always. Did you see the fall Mr. Beast has taken on YouTube? I don't really know Mr. Beast. I've heard the name. I understand he's huge. I think I saw somewhere one of these audio, will spoof your voice things. Mr. Beast was one of the voices. Having never heard him, I don't know how close it was, but whatever's going on there, it's out of my hands. I can't do anything about it. Read your contracts, people. Always good. Mellow is good. Mark, we are right. LOL. Yeah, we are. Just face it. But I ask you, even though you're right, don't get in people's faces. Don't provoke them. Don't say, I'm going to start a channel to take you down, and then you can start a channel to take me down, and then we'll go, have a rational conversation. Some people will like to listen to it. Some people will join in. Keep it civil. That's the wise beard man way. All right. Mr. Beast is bad. I'm sure he has friends who disagree with that. I will take your word for it. George Rockel Schmidt has a good take it down. Well, I probably won't be looking for it. And Witness says, you have to admit, Mark, it's fun to watch sometimes. It can be. Absolutely can be. And then when you have friends involved in it, it's a little harder to to have any joy in any of it. And when your friends are sometimes wrong, sometimes there are things that you're not happy have been done, they're still your friends. And but I can see why some people get worked up justifiably. The same way if people said to me, Mark, why don't you leave Scientology alone? For God's sakes, those are good people, those Scientologists. Yeah, the Scientologists are good people. You're right. And I'm not trying to get in anyone's face. I'm just saying, look at the way the organization works. And I try to be objective about it. I try not to froth at the mouth. And I would hope that anyone really interested in picking up the mantle and carrying on does so in a way that's respectful to the members of Scientology. So I think there is a way to do this without being disagreeable and turning off people who might listen to your message. That's just me. Again, you're right. It's fun sometimes. And I got to admit, I've been involved in flame wars in the past. And it did give me a lot of glee to be typing something on ARS that I knew, this is going to make them blow up, and then wait for the reaction. It worked. But that was a waste of time. Being a human is hard, LOL. Yes, Kelly. Thank God you are now a year older and you are on the right path. With age comes wisdom. And I don't know about you, Kelly, but some people get a white beard. It's a nice combo. I avoid ARS and Reddit. I am very happy. Well, I think everybody avoids ARS now. I know I have seen that there's an ARS message board still accessible, but I can't imagine anyone looking at it. What you should do, you should get, put on a white beard tomorrow and, go on camera. Treasure Bloke. Black and white thinking doesn't disappear for ex-cultists overnight. 12 years on average to recover from ex-Scientology. Yeah, black and white thinking is not limited to people in cults. Black and white thinking affects a lot of us. And it sometimes it takes a bit to step back and say, oh, maybe they have a point. What about this? What about that? But then stand for what you stand for and fight when you need to. Did you think I was on Reddit? No. I just know Reddit is a place where people go. ARS, I don't think it's a place where anyone goes anymore, do they? That's like 20 years ago. I don't read any of that garbage anymore either, Witness. And Witness says, Treasure Bloke, I agree. Dr. Hassan says 10 years minimum. I almost said Hassan. That's not right. When I first met Steve Hassan, he made it clear that, no, it's Steve Hassan. It's not Steve Hassan, but I still would see him being interviewed someplace and he'd be called Stephen Hassan. ARS, hello, 1996. There you go, Ed. Witness, because I don't even go on Facebook anymore. I don't do a lot of that myself anymore either. It takes so much time to do these things, and I've got all this stuff on my computer I'm working on and trying to make a living too. Facebook is for Candy Crush, LOL. Is ARS Mark? ARS, as far as I'm aware, ARS stood for alt-religion Scientology, the Scientology news group, that when I first started looking at this in 98 was the place to go for former members to be talking dirt about their experiences in Scientology and posting information. Maybe there's another ARS here, but that is ARS. Do I think David Miscavige believes in the tech, or is he just a cult con artist? He's obviously a mean, self-centered, abusive, and cruel person. Yeah, so in that regards, you should be able to see the tech doesn't work for you. And if you're the head of this organization and everyone who surrounds you, you think is an incompetent boob and screwing up their jobs at Golden Era, making a mess that you have to clean up, well, what's that say about the tech? I mean, these are the people who are supposed to be at the top, the people who are most trained in the tech. You would think you'd be looking not just at your own character flaws, but at all the people you keep locking up in the hole. All right, is this really the key to the future of society? If you're like Mo and you've got nothing but Curlys and Larrys around you, you knucklehead. And as always, all three of them are knuckleheads. Mo's the one who doesn't realize it. That's what she said. I don't go to those sites. I guess I'm a wise beard lady. Yes, you are. Yes, you really are. Let's see. Annette SE just saying thank you and good morning from an ex-Scientologist from Sweden. It's nice to have you here. Good morning to you. I'm excited because it is a little after midnight here in Florida. And I've discovered that the new episode of Severance gets posted in the early morning hours on Thursday here. So I'm going to see if I can watch that because I love Severance. Have you been watching Severance? If you don't watch Severance, you should watch Severance. It's in season 2 now, and they had an episode last week, and I'm not giving spoilers to anything, but they had an episode last week where it was a completely different location they were at. It's a puzzle. What the hell's going on here? And I'm thinking, I'm not sure this is what I want from an episode of Severance, but then at the end, it paid off. It was, they knew what they were doing. So don't forget to hit that like button, everyone, and go watch Severance. Like, share, and subscribe. It's what they always say and what Kelly suggests that I always say, so I try to say it. Thank God she's always reminded me. Support the channel. That's good advice too, Kelly. Support the channel, everybody. Daddy's got bills to pay. There's lots of bills coming up here, and any help you can pass along, I appreciate that. Oh, and exciting stuff happening all over the place that I can't talk about yet. But let me just say that Mitch and I have been talking, and we may see something come from that. Okay, everybody. But it's Friday morning. That's what I meant. If I said Thursday morning, what I meant was Thursday night here, early Friday morning, it goes up. So if I'm correct, within an hour or so at least, I should have a Severance. So many levels. What are you saying here? Thanks, Mark. Sorry to drag you into it. I'm just worried that I'm too interested in the drama. But then your streams remind me what is important. I also care about those who have been hurt by the COS. Yeah, and absolutely. And I don't like seeing people hurt in the critic community either. And I know there's drama that comes from things like that. So have you seen the Lexington letter? You ask me. I have not. What is the Lexington letter? It doesn't have anything to do with where I live at the Lexington Club, does it? So are they writing a letter about me? You know what's going on in that apartment? Bunker's doing these crazy webcasts in the middle of the night. Somebody fill me in on what the Lexington letter is, if you don't mind. So many levels, great comments. Keep your eye on the prize. Just drama. I was thinking some legal charges. Let's see. Oh, severance letter. Okay. So now there are a lot of things that slip past me. The Lexington letter. I have to look into that. All right. I also have that. I've downloaded that book that was released with the first, but I haven't read much of it. I just enjoy watching the show. Anyway, it's time for me to say goodnight. I really appreciate you spending some time here and sharing all of this. And I will have more goodies that I've been working on that I think you'll enjoy. Well, okay. I got to answer this before saying goodnight. I wonder if Miscavige will ever put Tom Cruise in the hole. NM, no, he won't. There's no. If he put Tom in a hole, he'd say, "Wait a minute, Tom. I'd like you to join me here in the hole. Isn't this fun? Isn't this fun down here?" When I say the hole now, I'm instead of thinking of the double wide trailers, I've been working on this little animated cartoon of Little Slappy, where he sends his childhood pals to the hole, and it's actually just a hole that's been dug in the ground. To the hole every time he's upset. Anyway, very nice. Yeah, he'll never do anything but kiss Tom's butt. So, good night, everybody. No, Treasure, I'm not sharing that comment. Sorry, not doing it. I'm just going to say good night, everybody. It's been fun. See you next time.
What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Your crimes are hidden, they should be seen. Spin all out, Mark, and just come clean.